I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. So, what do we have in store for you here tonight? Folks, we are here with the recap of another episode of Season 2 of the AMC hit show Mayfair Witches. Folks, already we've been getting a lot more action and a lot more events happening in just 2 episodes here so far. So I am here to break down episode 2, 10 of Swords for you. So, where we left off in our previous episode, we saw that the newly reincarnated Lasher had managed to escape from the Mayfair home. Rowan ended up locking him down in the basement as a way to keep him from escaping and injuring or harming other people. As we know, he ended up killing a young girl in the previous episode, yet we don't know how. And he's still consistently growing until he has become the Lasher that we all know and remember from season 1. Now, we say that appearance-wise, at least, this Lasher doesn't seem to have all of the memories or instincts that previous Lasher did, and there's very clearly a sense of moral ambiguity here. We don't know for sure where Lasher is leaning towards, because in the first season, character was very much villainous, and you could very much tell that whatever his desires were, whatever he was trying to bring to fruition, wasn't going to be good for Rowan and potentially the entire Mayfair clan. But as we know, nobody seems to know what Lasher ultimately wanted. Yes, to take a mortal form, but outside of that, we don't really know his motives. And it seems that all the Mayfairs have been convinced that it's just they will get more power. It brings more fortune to the Mayfair family if Lasher is made whole. But now that he is, nothing really has actually transpired. Nothing has changed for them at all. And unfortunately, this has left Rowan in a bit of a serious situation, because not only is Lasher going around and murdering women, he's murdering Mayfair women, as we find out. He ends up tracking down another Mayfair cousin, Cousin Gifford, played by Thora Birch, y'all know from Hocus Pocus fame and a bunch of other things, of course. Plays Cousin Gifford, who's this tarot card reader that ends up coming into contact with Lasher. And just like we saw in the previous episode, they have this connection, they end up having sex, and then Gifford ends up dying not long after. Something about the interaction with Lasher is killing these Mayfair women. And it's not the only time that happens in this episode. As Moira, you know, the mind reader that we met in the season premiere, her mother is ultimately killed by Lasher in this episode as well. Now, Lasher obviously knows that this is happening, and he doesn't seem to take any kind of joy out of it at all. He doesn't actually seem like he wants to kill this woman, but he's also not stopping himself with it either. So this idea that we might try to garner up some sympathy for him, I don't know if that's really something that at least me as a viewer is going to get on board with, because it'd be different if, again, he wasn't having sex with these women and then killing them. It's almost like Species 2 in a way. Y'all remember that one? The sequel where like they all come back from space, like they're all infected, and this guy keeps having sex with women and they all get killed because of it. Like, it seems very Species 2 to me for whatever reason here. But it's interesting because this is all happening and we have, again, no clue what Lasher's motive is, especially this new Lasher. And in the previous episode, he even made a move on Rowan at that point too. And we know that that's kind of how he got born in the first place, was that Rowan and him ended up having sex, or previous Lasher had sex with Rowan to give birth to new Lasher. So the fact that he has this attraction to these people who helped bring him about into this world, there's something drawing him to just Mayfair women. I wish we could get more information on that. And Rowan even takes an extra step this time and decides that she has to bring back Cortland, who we know she encased in stone at the end of the previous season for the crimes that he basically brought against her mother, against the Mayfairs in general. Cortland is not a good person. He raped Rowan's mother to bring her about so they could complete the prophecy of the 13th witch that would bring Lasher to the physical world. And he's manipulated so many different events over the years that, while yeah, it's made the Mayfairs more fortuitous, it's also brought them a lot of pain as well. And it's kind of interesting to know that, like, Rowan's cousin Jojo, who is there as well, who is very aware of Cortland's transgressions and might not have as much to lose as Rowan does with Cortland being out and about, but that she expresses very much some trepidation about Rowan freeing Cortland from this Stoneleigh prison of his to get any kind of help at all, because he hasn't helped them before. Why would he help right now? Why wouldn't he just immediately turn right back to Lasher? And this, of course, doesn't mean that things are all peachy and rosy for Cortland either, as we find out that in this stone prison he's been put in, there is some kind of madness that he's been stuck into, to where he's been getting hunted by these women wearing these Mardi Gras masks, which makes sense given to where all the Mayfairs are residing at this time and the connection they have to the Mardi Gras like parades that happen and everything with that. But then we also see him interacting with his father, played by the always great Ted Levine. Now, he very much brings that very sinister presence here to the show. It is a very welcome addition, because Lasher had that presence in the first season, and with the role that Lasher is taking now here in the second season of this show, he's not really having that foreboding presence to where, you know, if somebody calls upon Lasher or they're talking about him, we should start being worried, because we have no idea what's going to ultimately end up happening. And so I get the feeling, because it's very much established, this is not just some dream world for Cortland. And as Cortland is freed by Rowan and brought back to the real world out of the stone prison that he's in, we see that Cortland's father ends up calling out to Rowan, trying to summon her. So this is not just some kind of dream. We don't know that if by Cortland being in prison, it sent him to another dimension or to some kind of hell where his father's residing. Whatever the case is, you know, part of that is that we see Cortland literally cutting his own arm off to feed his father's never-ending appetite, that nothing that Cortland brings him will ever be enough, and that he's willing to take the flesh of his own son to keep feeding himself. There's obviously a lot of symbolism in Cortland's interaction with his father here. So we'll see what happens, because Rowan has to utilize Cortland in order to get more information to Lasher and to bring all of the Mayfairs together. For whatever reason, this seems to be the best course of action for her, rather than going to maybe Dolly Jean or somebody else and trying to regroup everybody to figure it out. And it's gonna take all the Mayfairs coming together on this, because we have to remember, again, they all thought they were being promised more power, something more fortuitous for them all, and thus far all we've seen them being given is death, because we do find out that girl in the first episode that Lasher killed was also a Mayfair. So that's all he's bringing right now, is death and destruction to the rest of the Mayfair clan. So perhaps more of them will now finally be on board on stopping him, as Rowan has to make that choice that there is no saving him. What he's doing is causing us like relentless harm. And we get to see probably the biggest display, in my opinion, of her control over her powers at this point, because we've seen all the stuff she's done over season 1, and even some of the stuff she's done with Lasher here in the first episode. But her actively using these powers of hers to try to kill Lasher, you know, lightning bolts and bringing the trees down and trying to sense for him, I thought that showed great progression for her, because Rowan has not just the powers that she was like growing and like getting better at utilizing in that first season, but now that she has Lasher's powers, she has to begin to master that and to use that much more. So we got some very clear demonstrations of her getting to utilize that and show that she's absolutely ready to begin the stop of Lasher. It's her fault that he's in the world in the first place, so she's trying to make up for this big blunder that's hurting her family. With our other Mayfairs, we see that Sip has actually found himself into it. Like, we know that he doesn't have the connection with Rowan right now, and Rowan's mind-reading cousin Moira, who was introduced in the previous episode, Sip's been told to kind of press on her, and we know that Moira already wants answers from both Lasher and from Rowan about what happened to Tessa in first season. And she hasn't gotten that yet, so when Sip kind of approaches her and offers up truthful information, Moira might not be like initially trusting, but Sip, using a little magically forced trust tablet instead, gets him that connection to where when Moira finds her mother dead later on, she calls upon Sip to help her out. So Sip has his in at this point, and that's obviously going to lead to some kind of reconnection here with Rowan. We don't know how that's going to be perceived, honestly, because remember, at the end of the first season, those two ended up breaking up, not necessarily breaking up, but going their own route, because Sip wanted to take the kid back to the Talamasca knowing that bad things were coming, and Rowan was going to do anything to protect this child. And looking back, it's like, well, Was Sip really in the wrong at this case now that he's killed 3 different Mayfairs in only this second episode? We have no idea whether or not Rowan and Sip are going to have a happy reunion. And this might be dashed even more by the fact that Lark, Rowan's ex-boyfriend, is now in New Orleans as well too, bringing the results of Lasher's DNA test with him for whatever reason. Something nefarious there about that. Like, he's presented as this very just everyday, like, normal guy, and we shouldn't worry about him. But this could have been done over the phone. This very well could have been done, like, not in person. Obviously, we need that for the show's drama itself. But I'm curious to see where this goes, because the fact that Lasher obviously still has feelings for Rowan, Sip has feelings for Rowan, and then we're bringing Lark back, seems there's going to be a lot of contention here for Rowan's heart, and that's obviously going to cause some problems as this season keeps on going in. So, again, we don't have any kind of clue still as to what Lasher's ultimate plan is as of yet, but we know there's a connection between him and Mayfair women, and that he is killing them one by one, whether he intends to or not, and Rowan, now grasping these powers, has to find a way to stop it. We'll find out very soon, hopefully, whether or not connecting with the other Mayfairs can help move this plan along. Next week looks like we have vampires showing up here, so we're getting that Immortal Universe connection finally. We'll see how this plays out. But let me know in the comment section if you think you have an idea here of where Lasher is going. If you read the books, obviously, don't throw out direct spoilers like that. Some of us like to be surprised. But if you're trying to come up with an idea, let me know that in the comment section. And folks, don't forget to get subscribed to my Linktree. You can access that at linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, to my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for horror gaming including Thing Remastered and Phasmophobia, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit those subscribe buttons there, and make sure you're coming back for more great horror reviews, y'all. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.